JiggyJaguar.com.
It's a fun day, kids. You can get a hold of us over there at JiggyJaguar.com. That's JiggyJaguar.com. And it's government shutdown day number 2. This is not like Hanukkah. We're not receiving any gifts. But Dr. Jack Caravelli, sir, you are in the thick of things down there in Washington. What the hell is it like down there?
James, well, first, of course, good afternoon to you.
Yes.
and to your listeners as well. Great to be with you as always. What's it like? Well, Washington is, well, right now it's a tale of two cities in the sense that we have been in the midst of just simply spectacular weather for weeks, but at the same time, the politics are absolutely dismal. We are wholesale dysfunctional, as I'm sure just about everyone in the country or even around the world knows. As you said, we are in the second day of a shutdown. The city looks and feels a little quieter. A lot of the federal agencies have, now that they're into the second day, they've, I guess, figured out, who should be there, what they call essential personnel, who should not be there, non-essential personnel. So, we are, I guess, the best phrase, James, I could use is sort of strapped in for the duration, waiting to see what's going to happen. And I will tell you, my view is very simple, that it's a pox on both of their houses, Democrats and Republicans, because I think back to the political science that I learned when I was in school, and one of the great things about learning about our government is reading like the Federalist Papers and the things that really started us in the way we began as a nation. And one of the things that you really have to learn and admire, respect from the founding fathers, aside from their tremendous political wisdom, was simply the unstated notion that for all of the philosophy and intellect they brought, there was always, I believe, and I think many agree with me, an unstated assumption and an unstated belief that to make a nation run, whether a new one or older one as we are now, that it implied the people of goodwill would learn and would be willing to compromise. There's no compromise in the system right now on either side, and the result, as we're saying to each other, is shutdown, and a lot of people in this city who rely on government paychecks are being hurt, but just as broadly, maybe even more broadly, people around the nation who rely on the services of government in many various ways that they are also being hurt, and that's preposterous. It's embarrassing. It's unacceptable. And rather than saying it's un-American, it is becoming too American.
You hit that right on the head. It is becoming too American. Dr. Jack Caravelli joins us here on the broadcast. Lignet is the place to find Dr. Jack each and every day. He's got a crew and a staff of just impeccable people over there helping him out each and every day, bringing you the news and getting down to the hard facts and making them understandable. One thing I was kind of shocked about, I guess, at the top of the program is these World War II veterans that are like storming the D.C. Memorial. At first, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, did they go see it on the days that it was open? And then I read down and I found out that these have to do with honor flights and that all expenses are paid. And I'm like, whoa. If it's all expenses paid, and I'm assuming it's a government-paid expense, they shouldn't be anywhere near the memorial because of the fact that how'd they get there? So kind of give me your take on this World War II veteran situation with these guys storming the D.C. Memorial. I understand, and I will basically, acknowledge these guys are they are superheroes. These guys saved us from the Nazis, and they did a lot of things in World War II. But I just am trying to understand, why is this such a big part of the government shutdown?
Yeah, well, great question. It was certainly a major story in today's Washington Post, of course, the local paper, and many people I know around the country see it online. I know a little bit about it. I think there absolutely was, as you described, James, I think a chartered flight that brought in a number of veterans. I saw one number was around 92. And exactly, again, as you described, these were, men who had fought at D-Day and, of course, June 1944. I am the son of a World War II veteran, and I treasure that generation exactly as you said, and what they did for us. I think, as I understand it, you and again, many of your listeners have, of course, been in Washington, and in Washington we have, of course, many open-air monuments. They are sort of run by the National Park Service, but sort of day or night, again, there's really not de facto restrictions on walking up to the World War II Memorial, or walking by going up the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and stuff like that. Well, apparently, when this group of veterans approached the World War II Memorial, and again, these are men who are well up in their years, and sadly, just probably won't be with us, much longer.
Yeah.
They were barred by barricades, but somehow, and again, the Washington Post article is a bit vague. Somewhat or somehow, the barricades were removed, and I think there are actually one or two United States senators who were along with them, who may have had a hand in this. They moved the barricades. There was no reason for the barricades to be there, really, because again, you're not going to really do any damage, presumably. It's all outdoors. You're not inside, and the veterans, because the barricades are removed, as you described, were able to go into the sort of into the area of the memorial itself, which is sort of a long, it's kind of a big, almost round or maybe oval shape, and see the memorial close up, which I assume very few of them had done, to that point. So,
yeah.
Again, it's just symbolic of the fact that, we, you and I and your listeners shouldn't even have to be worrying about, a group of veterans trying to see a veterans memorial. We should be, worrying about real domestic issues or foreign policy issues, and this nonsense of a government shutdown just, cascades across the news and, affects real people trying to do real things. So I'm at least pleased that, the veterans got to see the memorial sort of in the way they wanted, but it happened in a way that just was unfortunate.
We've got Dr. Jack Caravelli joining us, as he does each and every week on this program, talking about the issues of the day. And we've been talking government shutdown. Something else that happened this morning, which I guess has kind of been overshadowed by the government shutdown, is legendary Tom Clancy has passed away at 66. What are some of your memories of the great Tom Clancy?
Well, I think he was a great writer. Obviously extremely popular. He really loved the high-tech wizardry of espionage and the military and obviously its weapons. His first novel, The Hunt for Red October, just sort of came onto the scene as this great international blockbuster, and of course became a great movie and helped launch the career, I think, of Alec Baldwin in that one. Beyond that, I had the chance years ago when I was a young CIA officer to listen to Clancy come and speak at the CIA. He was marvelously witty, as you would expect from a good author, very engaging. The crowd loved him, and of course, I think he really took really great pleasure in being accepted by the professionals, both on the espionage side and certainly on the military side. He actually recounted in his speech, James, a meeting he had in the Pentagon when a Navy admiral, shortly after the book Hunt for Red October, was published and then a movie was made. The admiral looked at him and said, I've got some concerns about, hunting submarines. What do you think about this? And Clancy said he looked at the admiral and laughed and said, I just make this stuff up. And it was great fun. And so it's a real loss. I don't know the cause of death, but 66 was far too soon.
Yeah.
I think there may be another book or movie that may be sort of coming forward soon, but it's a sad day, and he was good and sure entertained an awful lot of readers.
We've got Dr. Jack Caravelli joining us today. Wanted to have him on today. He usually joins us in the 45 block, but I wanted to have him on early to discuss the government shutdown and also be able to give us his news and views on the events of the day. It seems to me we're sort of ignoring with the government shutdown or ignoring things overseas. Once again, that always seems to be the case in some of these situations. Netanyahu has taken aim at Iran's new president. He says that those folks in Iran are as dangerous as 50 North Koreas. You have an extensive background in the Middle East. What do you make of these comments and these statements?
Well, I've had the good fortune, the pleasure of meeting Mr. Netanyahu during my service in the White House. He was in his first sort of iteration as Israeli Prime Minister. He is tremendously smart, very focused. I think of all the Israeli Prime Ministers I've known, this issue of Iran and its nuclear program really affects him the most. He's very thoughtful, and his speech really, as you were mentioning, at the United Nations was really a bookend, James, to the speech given last week by the Iranian president. And I think that what Netanyahu was trying to remind all of us, and I think his remarks were directed at the White House as much as they were directed at the world, was simply the warning that, it's all fine, great, and good for a new Iranian president to come and smile and, say that, we can work out problems, we can advance our mutual interests through negotiations, etc. But I think what Netanyahu is trying to say is, one must be extremely careful and cautious before falling for that, that line of march. And I think the Israelis, and I hope the American government will agree that, what needs to be done, and again, I am all in favor of peaceful resolution to problems and not resorting to the use of force unless absolutely necessary. But in this case, we're going to have negotiations again with the Iranians beginning on the 15th of October, so that'll be soon. We will see, we'll see where the rubber meets the road. We will see if the Iranians are prepared to talk specifics to address the kind of broad, kind of feel-good statements issued by the Iranian president last week, and the ones that triggered so much concern from Netanyahu, who basically says, we've seen this all before. We've watched this movie. Now, if you're serious, if you're sincere, you need to bring forward, a series of solid commitments, and then we will verify whether they are being carried out. The other point that Netanyahu made, and I think he's right on this, is that the very heavy, expensive financial sanctions that the United States, the United Nations, the Europeans have imposed on Iran really have badly hurt the Iranian economy, and this charm offensive from Iran, as I'll call it, really is a product in large measure of the sanctions that have really hit the economy hard. So the next few weeks get really interesting. The speeches are over. Now it's time to see if Iran is serious or not.
We've got Dr. Jack Caravelli joining us today, as he does each and every Wednesday at 54 minutes after the hour. One thing that I go over to the website lignet.com every day. I encourage everybody else to, because they have some of the best analysis and different things on the events of all over the world and around the country. Talk to me about this story you guys have up there. New oil find could bring energy independence to the U.S. and Canada. This is a story not being really covered by anybody but you guys. Tell us about this.
Well, I appreciate the kind words about the site. We work hard. We have a lot of writers who contribute a variety of things. In fact, James, later this week and then next week, we're going to run what basically is going to be a two-part series on homegrown terrorism. I've got an expert from the United Kingdom who's going to write about problems over there with what we'll call homegrown terrorism. And then next week, I think I'm going to run a piece with some very interesting assistance from experts, and I'm not going to tell you who they are right now, who will help us really go through the good news and the bad news about homegrown terrorism in America. So I hope people will really look for that and, look on the site. Now, to answer your question, you know this story well. For decades, the United States has become increasingly dependent on foreign oil sources. It raises our gas prices. It makes us, of course, politically vulnerable. And, we spend on the average to the Middle East, depending on the prices each year of gas, at least $500 billion annually paying our gas tab just to the Middle East. That is money that I would prefer, personally, to see largely remain in the pockets of U.S. consumers, or at least, U.S. businesses. What American companies are doing in the Dakotas, Pennsylvania, Texas, they are exploiting really technology that's been around for a while called hydraulic fracturing. The short word is, or the short description is fracking, which basically allows these companies, the oil and exploration companies, to drill down to substantial depths and then horizontally go into various layers of sedimented rock, and in doing so, they are able to access huge pockets of oil and particularly gas that certainly were not available through the old conventional ways of drilling. This is really beginning to transform the whole energy picture globally. If America becomes over time, and it's possible, even a net exporter of energy, we will have begun substantially to sort of turn the tables on those in other parts of the world that have really profited immensely from our enormous appetite for energy. We are better and more energy conscious than ever. That's a good thing. But when you've got a population of over 300 million, when you have the world's largest economy, and as energy voracious as that economy is, you need a lot of energy, oil, gas, etc., every day to just, make our lives work in every sense. What we're beginning to do now, again, is turn the tables through the use of fracking, producing more energy domestically, and as we do that, we begin to reduce our dependence on foreign energy sources. I think that's, on balance, a very good thing. Again, energy prices are very susceptible in both directions to supply and demand. As we've seen in the past, gas prices really spike either on fears or reduced production. If production increases, particularly from domestic sources, I think we at least have a real opportunity, and this will not happen overnight, but in the next 3, 5, 10 years, to maintain or maybe even reduce our energy prices. And, I am very pleased that we were able to, put that story out on the site.
It is Dr. Jack Caravelli, and Doctor, thanks for being with us, and we will talk to you next week.
James, as always, pleasure to be with you, and all the best, and we'll talk soon.
Definitely. Have yourself a wonderful day, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
We are going to take a timeout here. It is top of the hour coming up, and Dr. Jack always has the insightful way of thinking. He does some amazing stuff for us each and every Wednesday here on this program. IQ Al Rizzoli coming up here in a few moments. Back on the world famous Jaguar.